So we're here at the Cascades, the guest house and permaculture sanctuary for our nonprofit Center for Regenerative Ecology. We have a 200-year-old shaker grist mill and a whole series of initiatives that we've been stewarding over the last 4 or 5 years. And I've been very lucky that a couple of years ago, my colleague, Brahm, came on board and has some wonderful understanding about how we can work with nature, reconnect more deeply with the natural rhythms, and really work with plants in ways that are in some ways groundbreaking. So he's bringing these capacities for syntropic agroforestry. Wow, what a name, but it's beautiful, beautiful work that he's brought together from his studies around the world. So we'd like to share a little bit about that because it's such a central piece about our work here at the Cascades and the Center for Regenerative Ecology. Here in New Lebanon, New York, an historic community, very important shaker center. This was the grist mill where the work of nature was turned into human food in ways that really were good for the earth, good for the people, and good for the future. And we hope we can serve those same purposes in our own small ways. So glad you're here, Brahm.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. So hi, everybody. My name's Brahm. I think the key takeaway message is remembering that nature wants to thrive, and fundamentally we are nature. So when we kind of look at our world and our society, there are things that we've forgotten. And I think the most important thing for us now is to have models of different ways of being, different ways of living, different ways of connecting, visioning, and reimagining and rewilding who we think we are, what we think we're doing, what matters to us. So what we're trying to do here is be a model for a variety of different ways of interacting and participating in nature in a way that is grounding, centering, and enlivening. That word, I think, is essential. And to just set a little bit of context, I grew up in a very different model of education. So there was no public school or private school. It was 40 families. There was no religious component. These were not hippies. People were not living together in a commune. My father's a computer programmer. My mother grew up in India. They were people who had done Peace Corps. They had traveled. They had seen other ways of living and doing life and being. And as they had children, they incorporated those ideas into the education, being a flow. So it wasn't all 11-year-olds over here, all 5-year-olds over here. We were all ages. We were living in our own house, but in the day we would go out and play in the park and do book clubs and do yoga classes and do music and had textbooks and all that. But it wasn't the 9 o'clock Monday morning, wake up, get to work, sit in the school desk for 8 hours and try to connect with other people. It was a flow. It was a flow, and it wasn't, outside of our normal context. It was mothers meeting at the park, socializing as their children played, and really learning to let go of fear and embrace connection. Or maybe we'll have lunch at my house next week. Yeah, and then after that we can have lunch at my house. And so slowly, this organic community formed of people who wanted to live with more connection and more connection with nature and running around and playing as children and learning how to develop deep friendships was essential. Well, we grew up inside this culture and this community, but in a parallel way. If we wanted to learn about how the water was purified at the reservoir, we went en masse and they showed us. We went to the post office, so we had books, we were learning this way, but we had a natural approach, and our normal desire to learn was not inhibited by a rough structure of somebody trying to have everyone be on page 13. Now everyone go and all do the same thing. So it was a very empowering way of living, and the philosophy there was whether you think you can or you can't in your life, you are right. So the work I'm doing here with the plants and teaching people how to plant trees, how to grow their own food, is really how to let go of fears that we have about, oh, I can never plant a tree, I can get the plants to grow for me. It's very simple, actually. And in community, we can really live in a different way and be in a different way. And so doing this work was the best way I could figure out how to share with people that experience I got of growing in a totally different way, where there's not that resistance to a power structure, because the adults around you are there to support you, and they care about you and your thriving, and they're not helicoptering over you. The kids just played, and there was structure and there was learning, but it happened naturally in a flow. And the old life was learning from the new life, the young children. And so rewilding is planting trees to make, a degraded landscape wild again, natural again. And rewilding is also something we can do inside of ourselves.